Welcome to the Verdin Verdict Sports Show. I'm your host, Jacob Verdin, and we have a little bit of information for you today regarding fall camp, who's been your standouts, who are the people that I would consider your camp MVP, if you will, on the offensive side, on the defensive side. We're going to give you a little bit of info on your DB rotation, DB depth, who to trust, who has the most to prove. We got some intel on the quarterback depth, just how they've been looking so far, and quick update on Las Vegas and the USC game. Appreciate everybody for joining the stream. Hope everybody's having a good one. Hit the thumbs up button. Hit the subscribe button. We're going to be going live on Wednesday, giving you another LSU football practice highlight video. It'll be the last highlight video of fall camp. Last little look before we head into this game prep week. Coach Kelly said that tomorrow LSU will start planning and scheming some things up as far as USC prep, that is. It's not going, to the regular fall camp, who we got, where are we putting them. That's out the window. Now we're locking in on the opponent. Week 1, college football season starts now. But what I've seen through fall camp, if I had to give an offensive MVP, if I had to give the title of who stole the show, if you will, at least on the offensive side of things, I'm going to have to give it to no other than Kyren Lacy. Kyren Lacy has had an insane camp. He's been looking really one of one, really unguardable, so to speak, if you will. He's had, beautiful packages, beautiful routes, and the footwork, just pairing that with the route running ability. He seems like one of the more dangerous wide receivers that you have on this team, and honestly that you have in this conference as a whole. I do want to keep in mind, though, the biggest thing that I have with him, the biggest thing that I think a lot of people need to consider with Kyren Lacy is that he still has a whole year to develop. He still has an entire season to, grow, flourish, if you will, and really fit into the role, fill in the shoes, if you will, of the past LSU wide receivers behind him. And I mean, there's a couple of arguments you can make as to, well, Kyren Lacy doesn't necessarily have to do this, or he doesn't need to hit these totals. But quite frankly, with the way he's been playing, it's almost impossible for me to see otherwise. It's almost impossible for me not to see him leading the team in receiving yards, probably breaking 1,000-yard receiving mark. Just the things you've seen from him by scoring the most touchdowns, being the most active, and really being the most consistent wide receiver we've had. I'm going to give him the offensive MVP, but there is an honorable mention. I did want to make a note. I'm going to give an honorable mention for defense as well. We're not going to leave some guys out, but honorable mention for offense has got to be Kamorian Pimpton, because he has been utilized so much more than obviously last year, but way more than people would have even considered. He's a clear-cut tight end, too. He's very, very versatile, and then he's just very, it gives you creative options on the schematic side of things in the offense. If you can throw him in motion, kind of get the defense to tip their hand a little bit, kind of get a peek into if you're running against a man scheme, a zone scheme, where are the personnel movements, who's aligning with who, just by being able to move a big body out like that. You kind of throw some things into the wind, and then now from there on, even if he's in motion, even if he gets that quick start, you've got to cover him in the short field. You've got to stop him from getting a pass. He's 6'6". It'll be hard to get over him. You're pretty much not going to be able to get anything out of him. I think, he's made some really tough grabs. He's made some really big plays. And with that comes the gaining of trust, not only with your team, not only with your quarterback and the players around you, but the coaches. The coaches are going to want to put you in in the fire, so to speak, if you're performing like this and turning heads in camp the way that Kamorian Pimpton has been doing. So I think he will definitely see, a big role. He'll definitely kind of be able to build off of the hype that he's surrounded himself with in camp. On the defensive side of things, my honorable mention will start off with that. P.J. Woodland. I mean, yeah, he's got the freshman build, but just the skills that he's been able to possess, the wherewithal that he has, it's that of a veteran player that's been in, college football 2-3 seasons. And that might seem like a overstatement for someone that has just gotten out of high school, but he's had several interceptions, pass breakups, been mixed in with the ones, obviously has, the trust of Corey Raymond and the defensive side of things, but the potential and just the upside of P.J. Woodland after this season, this could be someone that you start almost 3 seasons. This could be someone that you look toward as, a lockdown corner, and he takes in the role of an Ashton Stamps if Ashton Stamps inevitably leaves or what have you. I think he's going to be the foundation of the DB room that a lot of people have wanted and wished for at LSU over the last couple of years. I think P.J. Woodland, he's got Great coverage ability, but he's also the thing that I like the most. He's not scared to get after it. Like, you could do all of the intangible things. You can do, you could be fast. You could hit hard. You could do this. You could do that. But when the lights come on, if you're scared to make a play, it's not going to translate. It's not going to matter. And I don't think PJ Woodland is scared of anything. And we've heard from other players on the team that even, in the spring camp, whenever he comes in as an early enrollee, he hits the ground running. He's training like a vet. He's asking for more reps. He's jumping to the top of the lines. He was turning heads the minute he arrived on campus, and that helped, set him apart from not only the pack that he's in right now, but just really the defense as a whole. He's one of the brightest spots, so I'll throw him honorable mention. But for defensive MVP, it'll be hard to give it to anyone other than Ashton Stamps. He's made the most growth on the defensive side. He's cornerback one by a long shot. He's a big leader in that room. A lot of people are looking toward him, and I think he's definitely locked down some good offensive starters. He's definitely had good reps against Kyron Lacey. He got an interception on Garrett Nussmeier. There are going to be some areas you want to see him grow in, however. He's not a polished product. It's just kind of a similar tune that we can say he's got a whole year to develop as well, just like Kyron Lacey. He's going to be a different player by the end of the year than he is at the beginning, but right now, just what we've seen through fall camp, I think the cornerback room is better off with him being in this role that he's in right now. Last season, he might have not been ready for it. Last season, he might have not had all of the little pieces, the little fundamental nuances that you would have wished. But now, I just couldn't see a different corner that I would put my trust in. He's quite frankly my most trusted corner. He might be my most trusted DB as a whole, which it seems like a crazy, thing to say, especially if last year you would have told me I'd be saying it. But really, what he's shown you through camp, it's hard to say otherwise. I'm going to kind of talk to you a little bit about the DB rotation and the depth. On Ashton Stamp's side, the only other two people that you could really throw in would be maybe a J.K. Johnson, maybe a P.J. Woodland. On the right corner side, where you see Sage Ryan starting, at least through fall camp, you got Zy Alexander potentially, maybe a Toviano, maybe a Jair Brown. But out of all those names, the name that I trust the most, it's still Ashton Stamps. He still provided the most consistent coverage. He still has shown the most oomph, if you will, at least through the periods that we've seen. On the strong safety side of things, you got Jordan Allen starting off. I could see maybe Deshaun Spears getting facilitated in at that backup role. For the free safety side of things, you got Jordan Gilbert and Austin Osbury. Now, with this, with Osbury, he has the experience, so to speak, because he's coming from another SEC caliber program. He's coming from Auburn. He could, though, kind of get lost in the mix. He could kind of get lost in the shuffle just because I don't know if Jordan Gilbert's ever going to not see the field. I think Jordan Gilbert is going to be on a list of most trusted DBs as well. If we had to make a damn top five for it, I would say it'd be Ashton Stamps, Zy Alexander, Sage Ryan, J.K. Johnson, Jordan Gilbert, your five most trusted DBs at LSU. Ashton Stamps, because like we said, he's been very consistent. Zy Alexander, because last season, he was your focal point. Yeah, he got hurt. Yeah, you want to see the recovery. You want to see the growth. You want to see if he can get back to where he can be. But you've really seen the most from him. And now with the Sage Ryan thing, it's hard for me to put anybody else over that. Like, look, J.K. Johnson's at number 4 on my list. Jordan Gilbert's at number 5. JK's a backup. Jordan is a transfer. You got some freshman names. It's just hard for me to put all of those types of players over at Sage Ryan, who's been in the scheme, who's obviously able to play two different spots. Now, will he play them well? Will he be locked down? Will he be the number one player? That's an entirely different discussion. But as of right now, when you have to look at that room and say, who do I trust the most? I would say it would have to be Ashton, Zy, Sage, maybe JK, and it's just principally because you've been able to see more from them than you have had with anybody else. Obviously, the freshmen have potential, the most to prove, if you will. Even a guy like Toviano, I think, has a lot to prove. And it's not saying Sage Ryan doesn't. I'd say also Sage Ryan has the most to prove out of the DB room. Two things can be true at once. Him more than anybody just because he's in that, focal point where he's cross-training, he's in two spots. He could bounce around. And the thing that scares me the most about him, quite frankly, is just that you're more than likely going to see him play at the position that he's not necessarily least comfortable with, but just, least experienced with. It wasn't projected, if you will. If he was playing safety, you'd probably be more comfortable. You would think, okay, well, we're going to see something. We're going to see some type of coverage. Then when you see him move to the corner spot, it's not that it's unnatural. It's not that it's uncomfortable. It's just different. It's going to take some time to get used to. He's going to have to grow and learn. He's going to have to continuously get those reps and that added experience. But at this point in LSU's, goal or path, if you will, championship level defense, it might require a lot more close-knit coverage than that package, that scheme, that rotation, that personnel would be allowing for. Now, if he goes out and has a lockdown week one, obviously, you could say otherwise, but my main thing is just the safety depth has to be the biggest concern at LSU. You heard Brian Kelly say something about the tackling and just, we need to get better at tackling. There's not many safeties in general to look at. There's Jordan Gilbert, Jordan Allen, then after that, you are potentially throwing out transfers, freshmen, this, that, the other. Really, the question that I'm posing to y'all is, when does Sage Ryan or even Major Burns move back to the safety spot? They came from a safety spot. Major's moving in the star, Sage Ryan's moving the corner, and it was to alleviate some of the lineup depth issues. But when you've got a lot of corners that have been kind of coming up to speed. When do you ask, okay, do they move back to safety? Is it better for them to be at safety? Yada, yada, yada. That's my biggest question mark. Where does Sage Ryan fit full term or full time, if you will? And just what kind of things are they looking to get out of him? Are they looking for a lockdown corner? Is he really going to play coverage? Is he going to man that right side? Or is it going to be more of a piece that's kind of moved around, moved in and out, and, as hybrid as they're saying he will be? I'm wondering, and I think that's going to be one of the biggest things to monitor for this DB room. Excuse me. Real quick before we get into our next segment, wanted to let y'all know Happy Dad now available in Louisiana just in time for the summer. Happy Dad's the best taste of hard seltzer and tea, low in sugar, gluten-free, no artificial flavors. Go ahead, stock up. Whether you be at Albertsons, Rouse's, Walmart, don't matter where you get your groceries at, you can find Happy Dad here in Louisiana during the summertime period. Go get a few cases in just in time for the Las Vegas showdown. USC, LSU, we got word today that it's sold out. Capacity for Allegiant Stadium is 65,000 people. Over 60,000 tickets sold already. Now, it could be a good thing, but I'm going to also kind of pose a little bit of a question. How many of those 60,000 tickets sold are USC fans? It's a lot closer to South California than it is Louisiana, obviously. Travel time. South Carolina's flight is an hour and 15 minutes to Vegas. Their drive is a 4-hour drive. That drive is the same flight time for someone from New Orleans. 4-hour flight, but the drive, 25 hours. Obviously, the Louisiana faithful is going to travel. You got a lot of LSU fans that are going to move with, the team. You've seen it with all kinds of sports, baseball, women's basketball, but predominantly, obviously, football. But my question is just how many people make that trek? Does Las Vegas attract enough LSU fans to be able to kind of minimize that home field advantage, if you will, that you kind of saw last year when you played in Orlando with Florida State or against Florida State? I'm not too sure that a lot of USC fans will really tip my scale. I think I'm still going to feel the same way about this game that I kind of talked about, and that we'll preview in about a week or so. But it's going to be an interesting situation. It's going to be an interesting test, if you will. It's not a neutral site, really. It's not a game that you don't have to prep like you're on the road for. It's really an away game disguised as a neutral site game. And, I mean, they've got experience with it, but hopefully they can right the streak, the wrong streak that they've been having for 4 years. I feel like they got a pretty good shot, and I feel like they got the quarterback to lead them. Everybody's question when you bring up quarterback, though, is just depth. How does, the backups look? What's going to happen if Nussmeier, knock on wood, goes down, which we don't want, obviously. We don't need. He's been great. He's had a few hiccups, but he's looked like a solid quarterback one. I think, really, at the end of the year, you could be talking about Garrett Nussmeier being a top 5 SEC quarterback, not only because of his talent, not only because of just everything that he's capable of doing potential-wise, but the pieces he has around him. He's got the team to help him get to that point as well. When you've got the tight ends that you have, the wide receivers that you have, the running back depth that you have, the offensive line, quite frankly, that you have everything at your arsenal that you need. Let's even throw another one, a cherry on top, if you will. You got Joe Sloan calling plays in the box. Now, a lot of people are wondering, how is the play calling or just the offensive scheme going to translate? Last year it was Mike Denbrock and Joe was a quarterback coach. How much different will it be? how much different will it look? I don't think it looks too different at all, in a sense where you're still going to see potential of, 20, 30-yard chunk plays. You're still going to see the explosiveness. You're still going to see that big playability. They're going to highlight their key pieces. They're going to get people open. They're going to get creative, like he said, or like we were saying earlier with the tight ends. Put one of them in motion. Hell, put all three of them out in the field and just watch the DBs get mossed for 2-3 plays in a row. It's going to be high paced, and I think that, quite frankly, it could be a step up. Really, the big thing that everyone was wondering is just, how consistent can the offense be? Can they still put up your 35, 40-point games? And maybe it doesn't happen as often, but I feel like it's going to be pretty hard to just lose that momentum, lose all of that, especially when you have everything in your favor. Like we just said, you've got one of the best offensive lines. You've got a lot of running back, talent to run with. You got 4 guys that can all be viable options. And you might call me crazy for saying that, but you got Josh Williams, you got Caleb Jackson, you got John Emery, and then lastly, if hell goes in a handbasket, you got Caden Durham, who's getting reps in fall camp, who's looking like a potential successful back in year 1. There's a lot of pieces in that room, a lot of mouths to feed, if you will. And Frank Wilson, it'll be interesting to see the lineup that he creates, the concoction that he throws out there. But it looks like he really can't go wrong. I mean, if Caleb Jackson sees the field, who knows what he turns into by the end of the year. You know what you got with 2 big experienced running backs in Josh and John. And then Caden Durham is just another, wrinkle to the layer. It's another piece that I think can make this offense look a lot easier, or a lot more successful, if you will. What could ruin the offense, what could make things, drastic, is an unfortunate injury at the quarterback position, because your backup quarterback looks to be Ricky Collins. It'd be interesting to watch him just move into that role, though, because I'm not saying he's not ready to man an offense. I don't think he's ready to man an offense for weeks on end. Maybe he's ready to come in and facilitate and manage a game and maybe do it again the next week. But if you're talking about multiple games, a consecutive week period of Ricky Collins being the guy, I just don't know if it pans out the way that LSU, Ricky, or anybody else would really want it to happen. It's not saying anything about him. It's just saying things about the progression or the point that he's at right now. You've seen some errors. You've seen him throw interceptions rolling out of the pocket, pressure getting to him, and he's mobile. You could dial it back and go more towards a Jaden Daniels style and get more comfortable with the quarterback design runs and kind of just ease back into what you did last year. But I don't think this offense is tailored to that. I don't think anybody really wants that. I don't think it would work as well. And 2, I mean, if you've got to rely on him in that situation, now I'm wondering if you're going to throw A.J. Swan out there. Now I'm wondering if that backup spot, even if they say it's Ricky Collins, even if Ricky gets the nod, I think Swan could still be an option to get thrown out if Ricky somehow, struggles a little bit, because A.J. Swan mimics us the most. I think that is something that has to be considered. He could potentially step in. There's not a lot of scheme changes, but it's just like throughout camp, whether it be spring, fall, even whenever he transfers instantly, he was never looked at as really a serious option. Maybe a backup, maybe competing for it, but it looked like they were just going to give Ricky the job the whole time, as it does now. But like I said, mimics us the most, has the most experience. I really do think there's a chance where if you do see a quarterback injury, if there is a little bit of a slow turnover period where there's some struggles, I could see A.J. Swan and Ricky Collins kind of going in and out, trying to figure out what one works the best. That would be a horrible situation, and I think you'd see the writing on the wall as an LSU fan, but that's the quarterback depth. We talked about DB depth. Everybody wanted to know quarterback depth, so I gave it to you. That's kind of the gist, if you will. On Friday, we'll do running back depth. I feel like the wide receiver depth. I can kind of do maybe some O-line depth to pair with the running backs. But on Wednesday, we'll have our practice report. We'll have our last practice highlight video. So go ahead and leave some comments on what you would like to see in that video. Anything you're looking out for in particular, or just anything that you've got, on your mind regarding LSU as the USC game rapidly approaching. It's coming up. It's coming up soon. I mean, all these little, speculative videos, all these predictions, analysis, breakdowns, practice reports, whatever the hell you want to call it, it's all coming to an end soon. The game has to be played in roughly 12 days. Could be a little less. Could be 13. I don't know. But either way, the game has to be played. It's going to come soon. We'll be there live. We'll be reacting to it. Hopefully, it's a positive ending. That's what I'm predicting. We'll have our full analysis in about a week, like we said. But it's almost time to stop talking. It's almost time to, in the words of Coach Butler, shit or get off the pot. Appreciate everybody for joining the stream. Hit a like button on your way out. Hit a subscribe button so you do not miss our practice report on Wednesday. More highlights coming. Hope everybody enjoyed the stream. Hope you'll have a good day. This has been the Verdin Verdict. I'm your host, Jacob Verdin, bringing you sports talk on the go. Sponsored by our guys, Happy Dad. Go crack one open at the end of y'all shift today. Y'all have a good one.